I got that California.
What's up, Ocean? You got Matt here, and welcome to another top 6 video. A couple weeks ago, I took a look at the 6 best offensive water type Pokemon, and there were a ton of options, and I finally settled on 6 that I thought deserved to make the list. But you guys were all so disappointed with my list, so what I now do with these lists is I have the community speak out to give their opinions. I've done this with my past 2 videos, and I'll do it again in today's video. So if you guys have any complaints, you can comment down below or join my Discord server, The Ocean. We're over 200 members strong, and this is where you can get sneak peeks of my next videos, interact with other members, improve your skills, and have your voice heard on my next list video by asking for the fan vote role. I hope to see you all there, and now let's get on with the video. The water type is the most common type in all of Pokemon, with 133 Pokemon having this type. That's over 16% of all Pokemon. So obviously there is going to be some really good ones and some really bad ones. But there are also going to be some hard hitters and some that take those hits and just shrug them off like it was nothing. In this video, I'm going to be covering the latter, the water types that are the chunkiest, thickest, and bulkiest ones out there. But first, what exactly is a bulky water? Well, usually it's a water type that can take hits well. Some of them have recovery and others don't, so it's basically pretty much up in the air. And because of this, I decided to use a little bit of math to try and explain how I limited this list down before making my selection. Firstly, the Pokemon must have a combined HP, defense, and special defense of at least 270 in their stats. That's only an average of 90 across the board, which I think is more than fair. But after discussing with the members of the Ocean, they thought I should widen the criteria a little bit, which I was perfectly okay with, so I added this second rule. If the Pokemon has 2 out of 3 of their defensive stats at 100 or greater, the cutoff will be base 260 instead of base 270. So for example, Tentacruel reaches defensive stats of 265, but it only has 1 stat above 100, so it doesn't get a chance to make this list. Meanwhile, Rotom Wash has defensive stats equaling 264, however it has defense and special defense that are over 100, so it can make the list. I hope you guys understand. But the stats are just how I limited down this list. I brought it down from 133 options to only 29, and the way I decided on which should be placed where is dependent on their moves, abilities, secondary typing, how it fits in a team, and lastly, the big bad word, my opinion. So if you guys are excited for yet another list video, then smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon next to my name, and share the video with a friend. And now without further ado, let's get started. Here are the top 6 bulky waters in the Draft League format. Number 6, Tapu Fini. One of the legendary Tapus and a Pokemon that I constantly hated on for a long time makes its way onto this list. Now I've had a bit of a change of heart when it comes to Tapu Fini, and I'll explain why later, but for now, let's just cover the basics. Tapu Fini is a water and fairy type, sharing this typing with Azumarill and Primarina. It is a nice batch of resistances, being fighting, bug, fire, water, ice, and dark, being only weak to grass, electric, and poison. It also has an immunity to dragon type attacks. Its stat distribution for its defenses are pretty impressive as well. 70 HP is below average, but it has sky high defense and special defense at base 150 and 130 respectively. Now I won't talk about speed stat for all these Pokemon, but I will for Tapu Fini because at base 85 speed, with access to Taunt, you can shut down opposing walls that are slower than you. Its bulk is honestly insane. A max HP, no special defense Tapu Fini can take an unboosted Thunderbolt from a max special attack Tapu Koko in electric terrain. Now that's pretty damn fat. Its ability in Misty Surge will summon the Misty Terrain, making it so grounded Pokemon can't be statused and that dragon moves don't do as much. In terms of its move pool, I already brought up Taunt, but it also has things like Nature's Madness, Dual Screens, Defog, Knockoff, and Haze. And Haze, if used as a Z move, will put your health back up to full and clear any stat changes. Basically, it gives Fini a second chance to wall your opponents. I used to think this mon was a one-trick pony, but after using it for a few months, I found that it can do many things, and it's actually better offensively than it is defensively. Now that doesn't mean that it shouldn't be on this list at all, but that does mean that it's now more valuable than I originally thought. If you want to hear more about Tapu Fini, you can check out my Pokemon profile I did on it in the card at the top right of your screen. It's only about 5 minutes long and it's definitely worth a watch. Number 5, Slowbro. This is a very special Pokemon. It is the only Pokemon I had on both this list and my top 6 offensive water type Pokemon, and it did get a lot of hate there, but oh well. Slowbro has a pretty good type combination being Psychic and Water. It resists Fighting, Steel, Fire, Ice, Psychic, and Water. It's only weak to Bug, Dark, Ghost, Electric, and Grass, so it's got quite a few common weaknesses, but that's not the end of the world because of its crazy defensive stats. 95 HP, 110 defense, and 80 special defense are very good. Maybe not as good as Tapu Fini, but they get the job done extremely well. Slowbro also has one of the best, if not the best, defensive ability, Regenerator. Regenerator will give it back 33% of its HP whenever it switches out, and this is really helpful for its longevity, and it makes it so much bulkier than it really is. Meaning in Let's Go, it's not going to be as fat as it was in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Obviously Toxic is still a problem, but with access to Rest and set-up moves like Calm Mind and Iron Defense, it can still take hits and recover itself back up before it goes down to Toxic Poison. Oh, and I forgot to mention Slack Off. Yeah, it basically gets a knockoff of Recover, so that's awesome. Number 4, Milotic. How could I possibly have a list of the bulkiest water type Pokemon and not have my baby Milotic on this list? Milotic has a very good ability that enhances its ability to take hits in Marvel Scale. Marvel Scale will boost its mediocre base 79 defense by 1 stage when it's got a static condition. Pair that with the nerf to burn, reliable recovery in Recover, and only 2 weaknesses to go along with its great stats, this mon is very hard to beat. The biggest issue I have with it is that it can kind of be passive. Its coverage options aren't great, you're basically relying on Scald, Ice Beam, and Dragon Tail, and of course Mirror Coat for damage, but then you have Haste to stop setup, and Toxic to wear down your opponent just a little bit. Usually it's asked to do too much, and that's when it's at its weakest. Milotic shines the brightest when it's a member of a defensive core, not when it's the backbone of your entire roster's defense. Number 3, Toxapex. As much as I absolutely despise this Pokemon, I really appreciate its bulk. It's not something I would ever draft, but not because it isn't good, just because I know my playstyle doesn't work with Toxapex. It's got insane defensive stats of 152 defense and 142 special defense, which broke the requirements to make this list on its own without its pitiful HP stat of 50. It's weak to ground, electric, and psychic, and resists 8 types, including fighting, poison, bug, ice, fairy, steel, fire, and water. Its typing means it can't be poisoned unless it's something like a Salazzle hitting Toxic, so that adds to its longevity. And once again, this is another bulky water with Regenerator as an ability. Its one weakness is that it's kind of passive. If you aren't carrying Haze, then pretty much any setup mon with a substitute can set up all over Toxapex. But don't worry, if you're in a pinch and you don't know what to pair with Toxapex, you can just draft Tapu Bulu and Heatran and call it a day. You'll be in a great spot. Number 2, Vaporeon. Now I understand that Vaporeon may be a little high on my list compared to some of yours, but I'll do my best to explain why I believe it deserves this spot. Firstly, it has 130 base HP. That is so incredibly fat, even with its poor defense at base 60. Its special defense is base 95, so it's an amazing special sponge. Having only 2 weaknesses in grass and electric, and an immunity in water because of its ability is just incredibly valuable. Also, looking back on its base 60 defense, that's not even that bad if you get lucky with Scald Burns. It is above the others because even though it may not have the defense to compare with them, it has access to Wish and Heal Bell, making it an amazingly incredible supportive Pokemon. It's not very passive since it has Roar and Haze, and it's lucky enough to have momentum with Baton Pass. Since it's slower than most things, you can freely take a hit, set up a Wish, take a second hit, and Baton Pass to what you want, getting that free health back. For the honorable mentions I'll be including here, I'm going to quickly talk about some that did meet the stats criteria and a few that didn't. So for those that did, Empoleon and Rotom Wash both have amazing defensive typing and provide a lot of utility for your team with the ability to be defensive and specially defensive. One of them provides hazards and both of them can defog them away. Both were extremely close to making the list, but Empoleon was held back because of its ability and lack of recovery, while Rotom was held back because it's so easily pressured and usually has 4 move slot syndrome and has a really bad HP stat. For those that didn't meet the criteria, the water ground types in Seismitoad, Quagsire, and Gastrodon all have their strengths, and finally there was Tentacruel, which would have all been in consideration. Number 1, Suicune. Of course this is number 1. Suicune, the Pokemon on the thumbnail, it's the only mon on this list to have 100 or higher in all 3 of its defensive stats. There are very few Pokemon that are outgoing this thing from full. With its special attack at base 90 and its pretty strange coverage including Air Slash, Extra Sensory, and other more common moves, it can't be set up on that easily. It has multiple defensive sets like Calm Mind Rest Sleep Talk, or Aurora Rest Sleep Talk, or Sub Toxic Protect, and it really can be tailor-made for any matchup you have. Its biggest downsides are its ability and its lack of a reliable recovery. It's really a damn shame that it doesn't get recovered, but maybe it's for the best. Suicune is incredibly fat, has great stats all around, and is really the best bulky water there is in the Draft League format. Well, that's the end of my list, but now for the community's thoughts. We got 40 responses, the most so far, so thank you guys so much for everyone who participated. The number on the right of the Pokemon's name is the combined stat total of their HP, defense, and special defense, so be aware of that. Also, I didn't include Rotom on the list since the second rule was made after I sent out the form. So of the 40 responses, the top 6 getting votes were Suicune with 32, Milotic with 30, Toxapex with 23, Tapu Fini with 22, Slowbro with 21, and then a tie between Vaporeon and Alomomola with 14 each. Now I'm not too surprised with the results, it's pretty similar to mine, but I am shocked to find out how few votes Vaporeon and Empoleon ended up getting. Both seemed pretty disrespected to me. Anyways, that's the end of my list. What did you guys think about it? Were there any surprises? Let me know in the comments below. Also, I am so sorry there wasn't a list up last week. A week ago I actually had 2 finals, but I'm officially free. Also, it's now the holiday season, with Christmas coming up in like 2 weeks, and there are also only 2 Wednesdays left in the year. So because of that, next week I'm going to be doing my final list of 2018, a remake of a video I made earlier in the year, the top 10 Pokemon in the Draft League format. So if you guys enjoyed the video or are excited for the next list, make sure to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon next to my name to get notified whenever I post a new video. Thank you all so much for watching and participating, and I will see you all next time.